Good morning, or good afternoon, I suppose. What are you smiling about back there? I said good afternoon afterwards. Relax, you vulture. The person that you can't see smirking at me off camera, or I guess he's on camera now, is Lucas Panzica. We are here with you until 1 o'clock. Wave hi. Hello, everybody on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You can interact with the show on the phones if you so choose. We are wide open for the final hour. Kevin Clark will join us in just about 18 minutes from now of The Ringer. He's got, in his words, a ton on your new head coach, Brian Callahan. He has covered him in a variety of different roles, both for the Washington Post and for The Ringer. So we will get Kevin Clark's feedback on Brian Callahan here in just a few moments from now. A caller, Lucas, asked a question about the dynamic of Ran Carthon and Brian Callahan and how much Ran's future as the general manager here is tied to the new head coach that he hired. What question do you have about what the caller just asked about for me?
So the question I fall on is, or more of a statement that leads into a question, because I think it's fair to say that the setup isn't really that different. It's just like take two of it. There's still collaboration, partnership,
C word,
hunting together, right? That type of phraseology has not gone away. They've just done it with more definition and maybe with someone that will align better with Ran Carthon and Brian Callahan.
He's not going to pitch a fit.
Sure, and be more adaptable to the setup. It feels like take two of what they tried to do last year with Carthon and Vrabel. So is it really a departure from what they did last year, or is it them just trying it again but building different parameters around it so it's not as murky?
No, this is the same model that they had under Vrabel. The difference being Rand's actually the GM now because he had the title last year, but he didn't really have the role, right, based on the promotion that makes him an actual GM, it feels like, with more teeth, with roster control, with say over the coaching staff, defined responsibilities and things that are attached to him that he can make an actual, that he himself, he alone, can, if he wants to, make a decision on.
They wouldn't tell us who had final say, right? They just wouldn't tell us.
They would not tell us.
Like, oh, well, it's going to be a partnership,
important,
right? Every decision unanimous. Not important. It is.
And then Mike saw the window and said, no, I have final say. Get out of the way.
So it's like they tweaked things around it, but the setup, largely, the foundation of it, is what they wanted initially between Vrabel and Carthon.
Yeah, sure. They found a scenario with the parts that they wanted that made the thing that they wanted work better, or that they think is going to make it work better. I have no idea whether Brian Callahan, after one press conference interacting with him and a quick handshake out the door, whether this dude is going to be a good coach, a bad coach, an average coach, or otherwise. Like, I have no idea. But I know that they've outlined the way that they want this to work. I know that Rand said in the last press conference that we did with him, because, worth noting, Ran Carthon did not take questions yesterday. Amy Adams-Strunk did not take questions yesterday. That Rand in the last press conference that he did take questions in said, it doesn't matter if she defines my role or not. That's an ego thing. My plan is to still make sure that we work in conjunction, in collaboration, in some kind of democratic societal football thing moving forward, because we're not going to give the coaches players that they don't want to coach. So he said that on the front end. And this is just kind of bringing that, God help us, vision into a light that they think is more functional than what the previous construct was. That's where they're at with how they make decisions, football-wise, front office-wise, coaching staff-wise. It sounds like Rand is going to do a lot of the legwork with Callahan on putting together his coaching staff in the next couple of days. Again, Callahan, his plan is not to go to the Senior Bowl, it seems. He's going to hang back and work on the coaching staff while they delegate Senior Bowl responsibilities. Not sure whether Rand is going to be down there for a little while, is going to be down there for the full extent of the Senior Bowl. That's still kind of nebulous at this point. So as we learn more information on that, we'll keep you updated. But they're going to have representation at the Senior Bowl, whether it's the GM and the head coach or otherwise. Now, something that the GM and the head coach have to make a decision on, among other things, is Derrick Henry. So, Brian Callahan's been doing the local media car wash here, and I don't know. Lucas, my preference would be, and I don't know how the audience feels about this because you remind me of this often. It's not what I want to do. It's what the audience wants to do. We would have done the fourth interview just because of the way that the scheduling fell. We would have done the fourth radio interview that Brian Callahan would have done this morning if we'd have wanted Brian Callahan today. And I would prefer to do that interview in person at the Combine. Maybe we'll put it to a poll later. Anyway, Brian Callahan was on 102.5 this morning talking about Derrick Henry. He was asked a question about Derrick Henry's future, if it makes sense, with Joe Rexrode and Paul Kaharski. And this was the response. I wrote it all down. I think a player like Derrick Henry fits in every offense. He's been a remarkable player. He's been the face of the franchise here for a long time. When you think of the Tennessee Titans, you think of Derrick Henry. He's earned that. If he is open to a return that fits for us, I'm never going to say no to good players. And I know that he's been an incredible leader in this building as well, which also carries a lot of weight. You can find ways to use every player. There is no offensive system that would say, I wouldn't like to have Derrick Henry here. I certainly think he's got some gas left in the tank too. So we'll see where that goes. I know he's going to hit the market probably and see what's out there for him. So they're going to let him test free agency, it sounds like. I would never say no to a player like that if they would like to return here and it fits for us. I just think he's such a fantastic person on top of it all, and he's meant so much to this city that I would never just dismiss that. That was Titans head coach Brian Callahan speaking with Joe Rexrode and Paul Kaharski this morning. By the way, Kaharski, Rexrode, Tehran, we're going to do a quad pod this afternoon at 3:30 on the A to Z Sports live stream network. We're going to do a 615 Sessions podcast with the four of us, and we are all four going to discuss what we liked about the Brian Callahan stuff, the questions we still have for Brian Callahan, everything that's going on with this nebulous Rand Carthon, Chad Brinker structure. So you can expect that at 3:30 on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch on the A to Z Sports Network with all four of us. Should be fun. So Derrick Henry's return. That is that's a lot of affirmation to what Titans fans want out of this. And again, the thing that you have to highlight there is if it fits. But the idea of Derrick Henry coming back and them making it work in a system, and the whole premise of Brian Callahan's existence here is we make the system work for the personnel that we have. It leaves a lot to the imagination. It should excite Titans fans. It is something that I think a lot of people are going to be hyper-focused on while all of this other stuff is falling into line. Okay, well, they've hired a running backs coach. Is he coaching Derrick Henry next year? Well, they've hired an offensive coordinator. Are they going to put together a system that makes sense for Derrick Henry, or is it just Brian Callahan's system? Like, there's going to be a lot of these off-season decisions that are made that are focused on that are not focused on Derrick Henry, that the fan base's focus will be on Derrick Henry. And the coaching staff should not go about that with Derrick Henry solely in mind. But if he tests the market and he doesn't get a multi-year deal the way that I think it's fair to expect that teams would be skeptical of giving Derrick Henry a multi-year deal, and he's still hanging around there in the second or third wave of free agency. We get closer to training camp. Teams have filled out their roster. You get a better picture of how they look. and how they act and how they work and how competitive they might actually be. And Derrick Henry has said on Bussin' with the Boys, with Taylor and Will, that his priority, first and foremost, is winning a Super Bowl. If all of a sudden, and we're looking around at the Tennessee Titans in July, mid-July, through free agency and draft and UDFAs and rookie tryouts and all of that, and you look around and say, oh, this might be a more competitive roster than I gave it credit for. And Derrick Henry feels the same way and is financially willing to work with you on that. I think Brian Callahan is correct to not rule out a Derrick Henry return, even if stylistically that's not really what they want to do. Lucas, you have the Cosell stuff to that effect? This was Greg Cosell talking about Brian Callahan's system on our episode of The Install, the latest episode of The Install. You can check it out on 104.5 The Zone's YouTube channel. This was Greg Cosell talking about the idea of Derrick Henry and a Brian Callahan scheme.
An 11 personnel offense, okay, which is a little different than what you've seen in Tennessee. So, again, it all depends on your personnel, but I mean, this is what he's familiar with. That's what the Rams were. That's what the Bengals have been, which means that for people who don't know what 11 personnel means, it's one back, one tight end, and 3 wide receivers. Okay, they were among the highest percentage 11 personnel offenses in the league. So I assume that that's the approach you would want to take. Now, again, it all depends on your personnel. I think you and I would both probably, if we had to bet, which we're not going to, but I think we'd probably feel that Derrick Henry would not be part of this group with the hiring of Brian Callahan. Okay. Not that they don't want to run the ball. I mean, running the ball is part of this offense. Just because I said 11 personnel doesn't mean there's no run game involved. In fact, you can go back to, the Rams when they had Todd Gurley, when they ran the ball. He wasn't there, I think, for that. But of course, he was never with the Rams, but I mean, I'm trying to make the point that they do want to run the ball, sure. But I think that not necessarily with the back stylistically like Derrick Henry,
So that's Cosell's, film analyst opinion on it. That doesn't mean that it outright rules him out. But we've talked about this. Is it more likely that Derrick Henry ends up with the Titans or the field?
Probably the field.
The field.
But if Derrick Henry was under contract, Brian Callahan, like he has been saying, would find a way to use Derrick Henry. The question is Brian Callahan going to stand on the table to keep Derrick Henry? Is he going to make that plea to Rand? I want Derrick Henry. Let's make it happen throughout this free agency process. That's the question. Like, making it work is one thing, but I won't say demanding it. Including it as a part of your plan to Rand Carthon is another.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see how it plays out. We'll take your phone calls coming up next. We'll also get to Kevin Clark of The Ringer. He's going to share some insights and analysis on the new Titans head coach, Brian Callahan. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.